name is Lenny Murphy. I'm an amateur archaeologist, and I'm interested in finding out new areas that are sort of a mystery. They call them problematic artifacts. And the Birdstone in front of me is one of the more problematic artifacts that I guess one of the few people that have any kind of a sense on what they were is Earl Townsend, who was passed away a few years ago, a close friend. And usually the Birdstones were thought of as being somewhat ornamental, and I guess so ornamental to the fact that they really don't have any thoughts on what they were used for, if on a utilitarian thought process. But with a little time and effort thinking about where they were from around the Great Lakes, and I guess most of them within 500 miles of Lake Erie, and I kept thinking on what was going on around the Great Lakes, obviously fishing. So trying to understand the pieces of the puzzle to put together, I had to kind of study where they were coming from and what types of things are going on in that area. And after receiving a Hamilton Marine magazine just a few days before, and finding a Birdstone type of artifact on my Indian site, it kind of hit me like a brick, I guess you'd say. The simple tool that was put on the side of a boat today looks quite similar to the Birdstones of yesterday. And where most Birdstones back then had several similar features, I think we can help pin down possible use of them just by their similarities, if nothing else. Basically, most of these all had holes drilled through the bottom for mounting down firmly onto some type of an item, some type of a surface. And just like the cleat of today, which was mounted down on the side of a boat, thinking about the Great Lakes, I figured that there was a lot of fishing going on, and they would have needed some kind of an implement on the side of a boat as well, mainly to retrieve a fish that was on the line. And what they were trying to do, I would think, was to relieve the pressure from the fingers and to play the fish out a little bit. So by having a smooth back, polished back on the back of the Birdstones, gave a real good concave area to have a string go down as well as to retrieve while fishing. And where a lot of these were found around streams and rivers, it also kind of tied in their possible use, or at least the general locality where they were found. And you do have a few other different types as well. Most of them are all banded slate, highly polished, with no little etch marks, no little cut marks around there for decoration. I guess these little cut marks would have been a deterrent for them using it for that purpose. And if they were more for decoration on an atlatl for a handle to hold on to, as Earl Townsend kind of proved in his book that they probably were atlatl handles. He has a lot of evidence to point this out, but no conclusive evidence to really dramatize that they were used for that specific purpose. So I had to keep studying different features and studying different books that related to Birdstones, and Earl put out probably the best book on Birdstones ever produced in 1959. And since then, I don't think there's been anything to compare to the quality of a brick and the great accumulation of Birdstones he had to study. I guess what drew me back to the old writings was not having anything to add to what Earl had put forward. So reading Moorhead's book back about 100 years ago, he just described one feature on the Birdstones that had never been discussed, although Earl did confirm that on the side of the neck, on one side of the neck only, there was a lot of polish, like something was chafing to and fro, which there again helps demonstrate the thought process that This probably was used on the side of a boat and was lashed down and used as a cleat, as well as for you know, drawing your line down, and mostly for retrieving the fish to take the pressure off your fingers to plane the fish out. And with the neck always being smaller, they could tie a string around the neck as well to tie off a little anchor or a net or a fishing line. And with the sides going up the way they do, like the cleat, they could also tie off fishing lines around the birdstone and keep them in place while not in use. So it had many functions back then. I think most of them were relating to fishing because of the locations that they were found, and because on the bottom of a lot of them they're torn out from a lot of rough usage, which also demonstrates they probably weren't putting woman's hair or things of that nature that a few theories kind of think might have been done, or just as figureheads on the side of a boat. They're kind of small and somewhat insignificant as far as a figurehead on the side of a boat, and to go through that much time, I'm sure it probably would have been more utilitarian, had more of a function. And the women were into fishing, and I think that they could probably be the ones credited for making the birdstones, actually. I know we think that the men were probably making a lot of things of this nature, but the women were quite proficient in drilling holes in stone, which can be proven, as well as shaping stone, making mortars and pestles, things of this nature. And they had the ability and the time and interest to make these for fishing, which I'm sure was a necessity around the Great Lakes, a real priority for the woman to make the implements as useful as possible, as durable as possible.